Welcome to the OKR meeting. We're planning the OKRs for Q2 in this meeting. Q2 is going to start in 2 weeks. And I see that people already added a lot to the document. So what is the best way to go about this? I'm open to suggestions.
I suppose one thing would be to focus on the things that we can't do asynchronous. Is there any color or debate that we want to have specifically live?
Yeah, are there things you're wondering about, things where you're kind of disagreeing with other people?
So I at least have one if you want to just jumpstart.
Please do, Mark.
So you had put on there a KR of forming the growth teams, the four growth teams. And I would love to push for something more results oriented. Like, I don't know, like the business result. Like, what is the result that those growth teams are going to deliver such that we need to have them? Is it, and we can go back to SMAO, or is it retention, activation? Is there some other metric or some other key result that we want?
Yeah, so these are the primary metrics of each of the teams. So we should probably put a goal with these things on it. It's kind of hard to set because we don't have the data yet.
We don't have a baseline, which is the real problem. Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's exactly what I did. Basically, I have VP of Engineering Development and then Growth, and I just said improve all these four from X to Y. But obviously, the first step is to find X because we don't have a baseline.
But the other way is just say improve it by 10% relative, whatever it's at, make it 10% better.
Yeah, but that created problems. So we know we've achieved we have a strong sense we've achieved our cost savings goal, right? But we're actually having a hard time scoring it because we didn't do a good job establishing the baseline. So we're actually going back and doing some retroactive accounting. So this time for OKRs, I really want to incentivize, know exactly what your baseline is and set this absolute goal, rather than, because it's awkward when you get squishy at the end of the quarter and that surface area to kind of oh, well, if I look at the statistic this way, it doesn't look that good. Let me look at it another way, and all of a sudden the numbers look good. I'd rather be upfront about it. So, but that's my strategy. But I would say, Mark, on your side, we either want to take on the same goals here because product strategy has a lot to do with growth, or we need to disambiguate. And you've got half, I've got half, or I've got them worded a certain way, you've got them worded a certain way, or something like that.
So, Eric, you're asking who should own the growth goals?
Well, I think both teams should, but should they just be exactly the same, essentially, for the engineering director and the product director, or do they need to be worded differently so it makes clear that hey, they've both got independent jobs and independent responsibilities? The objective is probably the same, the key results are probably different.
Right. It kind of sucks to have product be prioritize achieving this result, and engineering is delivering on achieving that result. We both just collectively need to deliver the result. I would lean on that side, I think.
Yeah, I'm cool with that, to have the same result. And what we can also do is have a goal of improving it by a certain percentage in the last month of the quarter, because only then we have proper data and we can do the relative thing.
Or another way we've looked at that is to achieve a run rate. So it doesn't mean for the entire quarter has produced this volume of it, but we have achieved a rate exiting the quarter that is what we want. And then we know that'll look at in the following quarter.
Okay, so we're growing stage monthly active users by, let's say, 5% month over month or something like that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Particularly when we're going to 0 to 1, which we are here. So
I like the run rate one.
The only thing I want to be careful about with something like a 5% is that we might be growing 5% without doing anything. So it's got to be something as a result of what we did.
Well, that's nice, but at least we'll be growing 5% and we won't have a problem there. And we can focus on other teams, set more ambitious goals. And the most important thing is that these things are measurable. So at least if we can prove we make the 5%, at least implicitly, we will have been able to measure things. So I'm cool with that. You can also set a goal for we want data of about half of our usage base. But I think the focusing on the metrics is more helpful.
And McBee, I think he's not on this call because he's in Japan, but he had highlighted, he highlighted my raise upsell one and said, this really belongs more in sales or marketing. I had been thinking about this as like, well, there's some automation work essentially that the growth team is going to do that provides a lift in this metric. But yes, it is true that sales and marketing have more control over this metric than we do. So if that's true, then I would just say, well, let's just word this as, the growth team is improving this through automation or through product changes or through something. But does anyone have input into that? Like, are we sufficiently disambiguating upsell efforts that sales and marketing doing versus what the growth team will do? Or should we? No thoughts? Okay. I can, I'll include Mickey when he's off the plane and back and working on this stuff. The other thing he mentioned on my next KR was I put an infrastructure cost savings goal in here. And he said, this doesn't really align with IACV. Maybe this belongs somewhere else. And I don't disagree, but it kind of, this feels like the money objective, the first one. So I put it here. Can
someone make the bullets into a numbered list? Like in general, we should never use bullets. And then the numbered list, the advantage is you can say which number you are, which makes it easier to track for everyone.
Yes, I'll do that right now.
And of course, I could have done something that McBride recommended. You can click on the face of the person and then go to their cursor. So I could have used that as well.
Oh, that's a pro tip. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he added it to the tools and tips recently.
Cool. Wow, that's brilliant.
So anyway, I can leave it as is and it just looks awkward where it is, or I can move it some other place, or we could just reword this first OKR to include the plan, meaning AICV minus OPEX, not just.
I'm sorry, my cursor trick doesn't totally work. Where are we?
So the very first objective, the big bold one, which doesn't have a number.
You're talking about the introduce a certification program, add a DevOps transformation offering?
No, he meant the objective here, grow incremental ACV. Down below, I have an objective that is meant to align with this that's about cost savings, not IACV. So it would align if we make this objective, meet our plan, which is, of course, IACV and operating expenses.
That's interesting. So the top goals used to be like kind of a salesy goal, kind of a product goal, kind of a go-to-market, a product and a team goal. So cost savings, is that more of a product thing?
If we thought about, it could be, or if I was thinking about the first one as almost like a financial goal, sales being a monstrous component of that. But if we want to think about infrastructure cost as a product thing, I can just move it down below and then all's right with the world.
That I think that I'm on that track right now.
Okay.
And maybe I should have more multidisciplinary goals. Like the people thing is clearly, yeah. So I right now I'm thinking like it's market, it's product and people. Like that's the most important things in a company. But I'm open to another way to look at this and get the top goals from there.
So here's the next one. The next one, which is 8C, is a challenge for this too. So I had something in here around making sure we're staying on plan for our HackerOne spend. Because the program's outrageously successful. It's spending more money than it's supposed to, and we have to wrap our arms around that. If we put it, is that a product goal as well? Like, do we view that as sort of like R&D securing the product? I guess it would. So I'd say I would both of these down then.
Right. It'd be a product goal. It just doesn't fit with the OKRs that have already been outlined. So do we need a new bucket for IACV minus OPEX or something like that in the second OKR?
I think it's a product thing. And I actually think it's a goal that could backfire, because I view HackerOne program spend as the canary in the coal mine that tells you how secure your product is. And right now it's telling us our product is not very secure. Like, people find a lot of critical vulnerabilities. So the idea is that our security team helps trains our developers and institutes testing and all kinds of other things to reduce that. So yeah, I'd love that cost to go down. It's very expensive. Plus, we should be fixing things in a proper way. But if you go at that goal directly by saying just reduce the spend, you're kind of saying, shut up the canary. Like, we can do that. We can just remove the program.
But I didn't say that. I said spend on plan. So what I could say though is recast the plan, because we're developing some charts right now, and we're going to organize a meeting with you and Paul, because right now we're going to way overspend. That's a problem for our books. But the output might be, okay, we need to carve out more money for this because it's the right thing to do. But we need to force that conversation because we own this program.
Yeah, but I want to.
There, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, is there anything in that metric that you could do an analysis of the effectiveness of that spend? Meaning, do we know that all of those bugs we're paying for we should be paying for them? Meaning, is there sort of a quality element to that?
Yeah, so we are, as part of this, we are doing training for the team, so they're creating less bugs going forward. But right now, the reality is, because the program's new, we're paying off security debt from the beginning of time. And so there's this big lump in the spend where they're finding stuff that's existed in the product forever. We're burning that down, and then it's a question of what rate are we creating new security vulnerabilities, and then how much are we paying HackerOne to find those versus just not creating them or finding them ourselves. But right now, it's the 6 years of security debt we're paying off, and it's a huge dollar amount.
So I think like program spend on plan, you can do that by like, we're spending too much, so let's just reduce the bounties, which doesn't make GitLab any more secure, and it's the wrong thing to do. So instead, I'd love to see goals like be able to forecast accurately how much we're going to spend while not in a steady state situation. Make sure that every time we get a reported bounty, we dive into our code base and find all the similar situations that already occurred. We're having a huge double spend because we're not going in like, what did we learn from this? And where else can we fix it? We'll just have people report it 5 times. So I'd much rather have goals like that. So
Kathy Brooks and I put this together last night. So this is our plan. This is where the urgency is coming from. So we need to recast the plan and then look at all aspects of that program, including not creating new bugs going forward, all those sorts of things. So I'll move this down to, a couple of things. I'll move this down to the product one along with the infrastructure objective. And I'll phrase it as such, where it's like, it's not about staying in it's about making sure the financial envelope is correct given the business goals, and then making sure we're within that, as opposed to just chopping off the legs of the program and making it effective.
I'd like to jump in just on this first set, since it's mostly market driven. Want to just make sure I'm hearing particularly, this will be most probably from Mark, Todd, and McBride. What do we need external? Because my team, that's what we focus on mostly, is all the external. To date, it's been focused, pretty heavily on just the big cloud vendors to make sure that we're focused on making those. We're making good progress. I guess I'd love some feedback from Todd, from Mark, and I'll get it from McBride on where else do we need to be, where else can we get more leverage out externally that I might be missing? So my stuff should be very closely aligned with what we're doing, not tangential at all. So I guess I'm hoping to get that early. I'll have those individual conversations, but I don't feel like I don't feel like the next step I know as well. I can go create them, but they need to be completely in sync, like Todd, you and with what you think.
Yeah, my initial impression is actually, if you look at my OKRs for this quarter, we're moving in your direction a little bit, which is refocusing on some technical content and attracting more developers, which actually the things you're working on are pretty good at that. Like Google Next was pretty awesome at that, I think. So we're moving in your direction a little bit with your current partners. So I don't have anything off the top of my head, but I'll think about that.
Okay. So I'll take it to do on this one. I need to get this a little sharper with each one of you. So I'll do that in our one-on-ones and then feed that back up into this.
Brendan, I think we could create a page or 2 pages in the public that says these are the categories that we are looking to partner on explicitly from a product perspective, and these are the categories that we're looking to acquire from a product perspective.
Yes,
there's no reason we can't just make that public. Don't know if that has to be an OKR. We should just do that.
Yeah, I think that'd be extremely helpful, because then it also puts some boundaries on areas that we're going to invest and we want as a partner. I do think we're going to have to put some action behind that in some way, adjusting so that, we don't say we want to partner with someone and then at the same, like we want to partner with F5, but we're going to put F5 on our target list. Like, we'll have to rationalize that. So I'll work through that with you, but that'd be great. So I'd be happy to put that up there and take and own that.
So Sid, you had talked about how the first bucket is mostly about go-to-market, but product also has some internal goals about leveling up the product org, about getting more customer-driven, visiting customers more, things like that, and then also getting ROI-driven and making sure that we can understand the impact of categories. I was thinking about putting them in. I put them under G and H in the first, I guess it's 1G and 1H now. First up, do you like that idea and I can work on wordsmithing it, or do you want product not in that first bucket at all?
Oh, sorry. G and H are about product driven or customer driven and ROI driven. I like that a lot. I think that's that is part of our go-to-market product contributing to that.
Okay.
So that's the important thing here. Like, go-to-market is not sales and marketing. It's like everyone, and it takes a village.
Right.
The only thing I would say on that, though, is something about becoming ROI driven. I guess I'm not like, should we talk about user growth across categories as opposed to ROI driven right now? Like, I feel like we do need to become ROI driven. I'm not sure we have the data to do that from a feature perspective. So that was the only thing I was saying is.
So certainly not at the feature perspective. And so maybe I'm hampered by how much I can do, but at the category level, for example, I could go through, and this would take a lot of work, but I go through every category and come up with some kind of revenue estimate for each category, and then prioritize and say, well, let's reprioritize and say, let's do some of these categories and maybe even cut some or do them later or whatever. But there's some way to be revenue driven with what information we have.
Okay.
And we're not doing that today.
Yeah. But I like Todd's proposal. Like, the first step here is assume more users means more revenue, and let's focus on getting more users, more SMAUs and things like that. So we can do a simpler version. And then let's maybe do the simpler version first. Otherwise, it gets the only companies I know that do ROI driven really good are the companies like Oracle that charge for a lot of kind of different aspects of the product. Like, you have to get all these modules and things. That makes it much easier to have a clear business case.
And then if you know that users are using products that happen to be, or features that happen to be in Ultimate, then you can definitely draw some conclusions.
Yep. Yeah, just getting information on that that goes even below the capability level. That goes on like some features are not a category.
Right.
So maybe that's a really interesting thing to do, to focus on, Mark. See what like paid features. Also look at users using paid features.
So the only thing about the SMAU and stuff is that I was lumping that under, in the product side, popular next generation. Popular is usage, and I was going to tie SMAU into that keyword, not IACV.
And that makes sense. So maybe the users using paid features is a good thing. It's not quite ROI, but it's close enough, and it's about the paid stuff. It's not about stages.
That's a good point. Okay.
Thanks, Todd. By the way, I set some pointers for the top level goals. Did people feel constrained by that? Like, hey, the things I wanted to focus on are not in here? Or did people feel like, oh, I just added what I thought was important for next quarter anyway? Because that's what we should be doing, and then flesh it out together.
I took your guidance seriously, but yeah, I mean, it sort of overlapped with things that I was thinking about. That's kind of how I look at it. So, yeah.
Maybe another question. Is there something that you think should be a priority for next quarter, but you didn't put it on here because it didn't align with anything, my top level goals?
Well, that's actually where sort of that last conversation about G&H came from, about becoming customer driven. I wanted that somewhere, and that was the best place to slot it.
Okay, well, that's good. Like, I would be. Is it not here? Like, the location, we'll get that right over the next 2 weeks.
So, at the risk of just the way I feel about that question is that there are things in my Q1 OKRs that we're going to continue to do. Like, we just either didn't finish them, or they're something that we should be almost doing every quarter. Those focus, we're not going to. So I guess the question I have is, from an OKR perspective, to me, these are sort of newer, more aspirational objectives of things to do, as opposed to just, my objectives might be the same every quarter for certain things with different numbers attached to them. Those sound like more like KPIs to me. So these are sort of net new concepts that I'm putting on here. That's sort of how I think about it.
That's the way I took them as well, Todd. So and we actually, since we don't have a lot of KPIs yet, we have some OKRs to set up KPIs, but then the intention is going forward, we never put KPIs in OKRs again.
Right. Okay. So I think I read that correctly then.
Yeah. And I changed this yesterday. So OKRs are like, what's different this quarter? It's not like the regular things we do. Those are probably the most important things we do, but it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of time writing that up every quarter because it's the same.
Yeah. So to that point, my third OKR, or my third OKR under your third one, I'll probably move to KPIs now.
So you can have a KPI, but it should be a change in the KPI. So if the KPI kind of stays the same, it's probably not appropriate for the OKRs. But if it's a change, then it's probably something that should be reflected in the OKRs. At least that's my current thinking on it. The OKRs is a diff on the KPIs.
If the KPI itself changes, because these are goals that will go up every quarter. So but the KPI itself hasn't changed.
Let's say days of sales outstanding. It's like 35 days or something. If we want to make a great change there and change it to 25 days, that will be an OKR. Like the OKR, we're going to reduce days of sales outstanding by 10 days. We're going to go from 35 to 25. And we're going to do all these things to make that happen. That's kind of how I view it.
My take on this, though, is if we didn't get through an OKR at the level we wanted the last time, we still haven't changed it, so it should roll over as an OKR until it gets to steady state. Then we go to KPI.
Yeah, you can. Like it depends a bit. There's 2 weeks of work left, and it's not like a big quarter initiative. Feel free to just do it and not put it on this page. If you're going to spend a lot of time and you want to show everyone, you want to keep everyone accountable and updated on the progress, feel free to bring it back this quarter.
Until we're closing a bunch of acquisitions, that's going to stay as an OKR until we figure that thing out. So,
yeah. So they're cool.
So Brandon, on that one, VP Alliance's launch marketing program.
Yep.
Are you asking my team for assistance and money for that?
No money. We're just doing, so we're already working with Melissa to both blog post and get that stuff posted. So we're changing the webpage. We've changed a couple things there. And yeah, but no, it's not dollars. It's just going to be working with Melissa to, this is a theme that we want to start planting, that we need to get a couple execution really well so we can point to them. So we got to get the pattern out. So first is get more acquisition options, close a couple, define the pattern, share the pattern, get the flywheel going.
Quick time check. This is a super expensive meeting with the entire exec team. We seem to be making great progress asynchronously. Do we want to keep doing that and stop this meeting at this point?
I appreciate you asking. I think so, from my point of view.
Can I get Mark, Todd, Eric, and Paul?
I still have one thing I want to talk with you, but we can talk about it on our one-on-one. I don't think it needs to be everything.
I have one question.
Actually, I have one other thing I do want to mention here, but go ahead, Todd, first.
Okay. Number 2, your OKR 2, D1. Are you comfortable with us doing that? Because the CEO currently is in charge of pricing, but I want to do an analysis on this and bring back an iteration proposal.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think most companies, product marketing owns pricing, and longer term, we should have a full-time pricing person. If it was only to like how we deal with like inflation and just raising the price with a few percent every year, things like that. But there's many more questions, and it would be very surprising if the stuff I made up is our optimal pricing strategy. That is highly unlikely. So I think there's a lot of improvements there possible, but I'll be very critical on the work there. But yes, long term, this should be owned by product marketing. So I support this. Just know I'm going to be super critical on because there's a lot involved there. But that's
and that's why
let's hopefully go.
Put 2 out of 3 of them are analyze and bring you data so that you make a good decision.
Very valuable.
So
Mark?
the other one that I wanted to talk about was you've got a very consumption pricing for compute. That's one where product can't execute solely. So Eric, I just wanted to make sure that we're working together to make sure that infrastructure has that OKR as well. And I think that was one of the concerns we had with our Q1 OKR is product signed up for it and then, realized that infra didn't. So let's make sure we're aligned this time.
Yeah, and this could take one of 2 forms. I think if you can give us some scope, we can determine of like, oh yeah, this just gets scheduled. But if it's bigger than that, it's going to crowd other stuff out, and we need OKRs to allow us to say no to other things, so we stay focused on that. Then we'll put it in. So I think that's a perfect thing to highlight now and hammer out whether it needs to be an infrastructure OKR before May 1st. And if so, we'll push something else off the plate.
Okay. And then specifically, so the thing I want to talk about was you talked about it like consumption rating for compute, which is pretty broad in general. I would like to make it more specific and talk about macOS runners on GitLab.com. And I know that means cutting some scope, but cutting Windows and cutting self-managed, I just frankly don't think it's achievable in the time frame. And I want to make sure that this is ambitious yet achievable.
Was that a question to me, whether that was ambitious enough or?
Well, I'm making a proposal to specifically make your top OKR about consumption pricing for Mac OS runners on GitLab.com rather than for compute as a broad term.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Okay.
If that's what's possible, that's what's possible.
Can I ask why Mac OS over Windows? It would sort of seem I would implicitly think it was vice versa.
Well, iOS development, I think we have a stronger toehold on iOS development than we do on like .NET development. I didn't realize .NET might be large, but we don't have a lot of momentum there.
Perfect. Thank you. Yep. Good detail.
So if we're ready to break and go async, what should our goal be for getting this presumably out of the doc, which is good for real-time collaboration, and into the page?
I think I'm not sure. I think it's more convenient in the doc for now. So I'm not against keeping it in the doc until right up to the deadline. It should be in the handbook before the start of the quarter, but I'm open to leaving trying this. Previous quarters we did a lot. We did it in Git, but it had a lot of merge conflicts. So
I think it's convenient for now, but my managers will have OKRs too, so directors will take it down to that level, and then all of a sudden there's a lot of activity in this doc.
Bye, Paul.
A little bit easier to fan out and use MRs.
Okay, so what would you propose?
I would say if we keep hammering on this until next Friday, then we've got essentially 2 weeks to go down to the manager level before we kick off on May 1st. So it'll be the 19th. Okay,
so Friday the 19th, certain time?
Yeah. And it's good that we all don't do it at the same time. Well, we should lock down the doc at the same time, but if we're all doing our MRs at different times, we'll have less conflicts.
So can somebody be in charge of basically after Friday, putting whatever's here?
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Page. And awesome. Then after that's done, you send a note that says it's done, and then we can all iterate after that.
Put a big X across this doc once you do the merge. So
definitely the doc, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll do that end of day my time, end of day Pacific time on Friday the 19th.
19th.
Okay, I typed it up at the top of the doc. So you'll strike through the content, so we're all aware of what's happening.
Cool.
Thanks. I think that's a great halfway to moving it from the doc to the thing. I think that's a great outcome. Thanks for that. Anything else that's good to discuss now that we're here?
I just wanted a quick clarification on the DevOps transformation. Is this like a professional services package we'd offer to customers?
Yep. Be like sessions and courses and things like that.
Okay, so training as well. Got it.
I think actually one thing that's really important is the assessment part, because we can sell and market the assessment. Meaning, hey, you want us to come in and assess your DevOps toolchain woes and give you some analysis. So like an assessment is a critical part of that from a marketing perspective.
Is this something we want to do all ourselves? Is it something that we want any partners involved? Is it something you want us to do a scan of what is being done? So there's a number of people do stuff around this. But we want this to be clear, we want this as an offering that we sell to our customers as the first point of engagement.
Not necessarily the first one, but sometimes the first, sometimes like, hey, you've been a premium customer for a while. Let's have you really embrace all of the product.
Okay, got it.
And Todd, I like your comment about an assessment, because that will be maybe McBride's already saying we don't have the capacity for this, but maybe we can do the assessment, and then, okay, we don't have a transformation offering, but we do have the assessment, and try with that for a quarter.
I'm going to throw out a crazy idea here, but if to the extent that an assessment could be automated, McBride came to me with an idea before, maybe I'd use that at Meraki, I guess, where like they had an app that did something and it was just branded with Meraki, but it worked for everybody. And it was just a really great awareness and onboarding tool. Like if we could, have an assessment app that you use, that isn't GitLab specific, but just assesses your DevOps transformation maturity or whatever, could just be a really interesting marketing tool.
Yeah.
Or even just something that come to Git repo and extracted some intelligence around it, like how many merge commits indicating deploys. You can learn something about deploy frequency from that. And that would work
Exactly.
for it's not using GitLab. It would be agnostic to Git.
Even better, yes.
I think that's a very interesting proposal.
And if it really is working, that's something we could just contract out to do potentially. There are shops that do this kind of stuff. But the assessment is hard, right? But the app development we could contract out.
So I've made an issue to have more code analytics in GitLab, I think 3 years ago or something. So it's harder than, it's not being prioritized, but also it might be a bit harder. But yeah, we could, for example, we have a vendor, I'm sure they won't mind me mentioning their name, Biturja, that has pretty cool graphics. So maybe work with them. Oh, by the way, does anybody mind if we throw this on GitLab Unfiltered?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think we said anything confidential.
Cool.
I did briefly project a chart that did have real financials for a HackerOne program on the y-axis. I don't know if that's something we care about or not.
No, it's fine. We're spending a lot of money on HackerOne. Worth it. Great. Sherry, can you set up one-on-ones, maybe separate? Oh, this is going to be a busy week for me, right? Till the 19th?
Yeah, you'll be at CAB and you're pretty much full at this point.
Cool. Well, I don't think it makes sense to go to every individual thing at this stage. So I think we'll try to get it in as good of a state as possible for Friday, and then we'll take it from there. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.